Well, as we promised you, this is getting interesting and the action heats up all through the day. Right now, we are moving on and inviting on stage Mr. Harish Tibrewala. But first, quick introduction. Social networks play a huge role in today's world, helping brands and professionals to engage. They are instruments of reaching out to the desired audience rapidly and effectively. Well, that's our next session, where we will learn about how to build a compelling social presence. We would like to invite on stage Mr. Harish Tibrewala, Joint CEO, Social Wavelength. Mr. Tibrewala is going to run you through an insightful session on how CIOs can build a compelling social presence. Please get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Harish Tibrewala joins us on stage.
So good afternoon, everyone. The topic for my session is how do you create a compelling social media presence, or how do you leverage social media? When I think of social media, I don't think social media purely as a media channel. For me, it's not about what shall we do on print, what shall we do on TV, what shall we do on social media. To me, social media is something that has brought about fundamental change in human behavior. And that change in human behavior has created impact on brand, and therefore created a set of challenges and opportunities which need to be addressed in multiple fashion beyond just thinking of what you can do on Facebook and LinkedIn. So my presentation is going to be more on digital transformation. How can you really use the media as a tool for digital transformation? So initially I'll talk something about the impact of human behavior. What has been the impact of human behavior? So if you look at Generation Y, which is what we keep talking about, the new generation, Generation Y are individuals who are born in the time frame 1980 to 2000. They will form 75% of the workforce by 2025. They demand a very entrepreneurial culture in the organization. They are not used to the hierarchical pyramid kind of a model. They demand a very different kind of a work culture. They watch TV with 2 or more devices together. They trust strangers more when it comes to reviews and comments than they trust brands. They lean on user-generated experiences to take purchase decisions. You know, one would go to a website, look at comments by users, and use that as a basis for making purchase decisions. They will check if a friend has checked in. When they go to a store, they try to check whether my friend has already checked into that kind of a store. They are used to using virtual currency or earned currency beyond just the physical currency that we use. And of course, they find their love life through Facebook, and they also dump people through just text messages. So a very different kind of behavior that we are seeing from this kind of a generation, which is going to become the dominant generation as part of our workforce and to people who will be selling goods and products. The second generation, which I classify as what I call as Generation C. You know, to me, Generation C are people who are basically digital consumers. They are digital natives. It doesn't matter what is their age group, it doesn't matter what is their demographics. These are people who live, eat, speak digital. They are constantly on Twitter, Facebook pages are open, they check their Facebook account every day. And the population of people who are Gen C is actually increasing day by day. So everybody who is not a digital native is becoming a digital native. This population is constantly increasing. So there's a Gen X we are looking at, there's a Gen C that we are looking at. It's a very interesting study I found by Brian Solis. Brian Solis is the author of a book called, What is the Future? And as per a study by Brian Solis, he found that 40% of Fortune 500 companies that existed in 2000 did not even exist in 2010. It is not that these companies fell off the list of Fortune 500, they had ceased to exist. He did a study of the previous few decades, and the change used to be 5% or 10% between one decade or another. But this decade, 2010 to 2010, 40% of these companies had ceased to exist. And then some of these companies you will recognize are like Blockbuster, Borders, Comp USA, Woolworth, Mervyn's. These are the kind of companies that completely ceased to exist. And when he did a study to find out what is the key reason why this change is happening, the answer lies somewhere in the power of digital. The power has shifted from the brand to the consumer so fast that businesses, they are not able to adapt to this power, they completely vanish, which was like a key finding from his study. This is another study done by Dr. Jagdish Sheth, something what he talks about the power of digital media and how it is influencing human behavior. So he says that digital media is very, very addictive. And a lot of us will experience it. Once you get used to it, you just cannot get off it. Digital also makes things that are not real actually appear real, you know. And Jagdish Sheth gives an example in his book of taking an interview with somebody in Manhattan, a very senior vice president level lady in an agency in Manhattan. And it is 4 o'clock, and this lady is looking at her watch very, very keenly. So Jagdish Sheth just asked him that, why are you looking at your watch all the time? Do you need to go and pick up your kid from the school or something? She says, no, I need to milk my cows. He's asking, in Manhattan, where do you need to milk your cows? No, apparently it was time for her to, get onto the app where she had to go and start milking her cows. Okay. So digital is making this virtual and real world, look completely blurred. The lines are kind of getting blurred. A very interesting thing of how digital is redefining business models. A single storyteller, person who can write a good story with the help of an Apple Mac and software worth $1 million can actually create a proper Hollywood blockbuster. You don't need to invest $100 million anymore in those shoots and locations and characters. Just good software, good story. It means huge for a change in complete business model. How does the future of Hollywood and Bollywood manifest in a world like this? Intellectual property can no longer be protected. In a digital world, there is no concept of intellectual property. We have to kind of realign our thinking. You cannot protect intellectual property anymore in a digital world. Branding, which was traditionally the domain of FMCGs, you looked at FMCG case studies to understand what is branding. And I think the whole concept of branding has changed. Look at brands like a WhatsApp or a Uber or an Airbnb. They're hardly spending any money to get the kind of brand advocacy or consumer recognition. So the whole rules of branding are going to be rewritten by these new generation brands who adopted completely new routes and techniques to engage with consumers. Generation gap, which generally used to be 20 years, generation gap used to be 20 years, has now become 8 years. Which means that two siblings who have been born 8 years apart will no longer be able to understand each other. Once upon a time, generation gap was father and son not understanding. We are from two different generations. Now, because of the change in technology happening so fast, siblings 8 years apart will actually belong to two different generations. So these are some of the very fundamental changes that we are seeing that is happening in human behavior. And how does this change now impact brands and businesses? So first, social currency starts becoming very important. When you look from a sales or marketing perspective, we always keep looking at marketing dollars. What is the ARPU of this customer? How much is this per transaction size? Now, along with the amount of business he gives you, it is also important to see social currency. Is he an influencer? Does he have a lot of Twitter followers? If he comes and writes a review on TripAdvisor, will it get me a lot of advocacy? So brands have to learn to value physical currency and social currency when looking at a consumer. So go back and look at all your CRM systems. Are you carrying information about the social value of the customer? You have all the information of what he bought, when he bought, average transaction size, ticket size, everything. But do you know the value of his social currency? How important is he on social media? And that will start determining how you are going to engage with the consumer. So social currency is going to become very important. Social networking will become the new knowledge management system. For a very long time, companies have tried to impose knowledge management system, very structured system. Come and do this and come and do that, and it hasn't worked. But a social network like a Yammer or a Chatter, which is set up in-house, where people start engaging with people and start sharing information and content, will actually become the new kind of knowledge management systems going ahead. Market segmentation will no longer happen based on demographics, it will happen based on psychographics. If you go to a marketeer, he asks you that, is your TG in Sec A, Sec B, Sec C? All of these are going to become ancient. Very soon we'll talk in terms of psychographics. Social networks allows you to do it. Which means that if a person reads this kind of book and listens to this kind of music, he's likely to buy this kind of product. This information is available from networks like a Facebook or a Twitter, where you can look at common behavior of people to actually predict what will be their affinity for a brand. So we'll shift from demographic profiling to psychographic profiling of consumers. Corporate organograms will change. Corporate organograms for the last 30, 40 years have been structured in a certain fashion. You have a marketing department, a sales department, customer service department, branding department, and they pretty much don't talk to each other. But in the new social area, this structure will need to change. Imagine there's a problem that happens at Friday 5 in the evening about some concern happening somewhere. In the good old days, the guy will call up the customer service team. The sales guy will tell the customer service, you please take care and fix the problem and don't bother me. But in the new world, if the problem is not fixed and it starts gaining momentum, and maybe it starts trending and starts building advocacy, is it now a sales problem? Is it a marketing problem? Is it a customer service problem? Is it a branding problem? For all you know, next day morning, a call will land on the CEO's table wanting to know what happened. So we'll have to rethink of how our corporate org is structured to be able to talk to each other far more frequently than we do right now. The role of marketing will change. In marketing, we have this very famous saying that, out of 2 rupees spent, 1 worked and 1 didn't work. But I don't know which worked, which didn't work. Okay, so marketing guys, agency guys have traditionally gotten away with that kind of a explanation. Today, with the plethora of data available, you can join the dots for just about everything. Who entered your website from which page and how much time he spent and which product clicked and why did he exit and where did he exit and where did he go to? There is so much data available. So the role of marketing will involve analytics and creativity. You will need to build in analytical abilities to be able to crunch customer data and start running your communication and campaigns based on that data. Social listening will become very important. I'll be talking a little more of social listening in a bit more of detail. The biggest impact, of course, is shift of power that has happened. Why is digital suddenly so important? It is because it has shifted the center of power from the brand to the consumer. Consumers don't trust brand anymore. If I want to book a hotel, I will not go to the hotel website. I will go to TripAdvisor. I will look at reviews of people who are completely strangers and don't know me. But based on those reviews, I will take a purchase decision. So the power has suddenly shifted, which is why digital has suddenly become so very important. So this was something in terms of, what is the impact on human behavior and what's the impact on brands. And if I have to think like a CEO, what are the kind of things that I should be looking at, in investing and getting my organization to do? The first is use digital to create consumer experiences. To me, digital is not about getting more Facebook likes and having a promoted post or getting a Twitter trend happening. It is really using the power of digital to replicate a brand experience. And there's a video I want to show you. This was a case study video by McDonald's. If you look at McDonald's, kids engage with McDonald's as a brand not only for the food, but also for the fun part. When you go there, you see a Ronald McDonald on a bench, and kids will play around with it. Now, in a place like Singapore, where real estate is very expensive, they could not have very large format McDonald outlets. So how do you recreate that same experience for a child, which he will enjoy? So what they actually did is they took tables. Below tables, they put RFID devices. And using RFID devices, they converted those tables into a game. So while the order is being served, the child can actually play a game. Can you play the video, please? There's a link right up there on the screen. It went to the next slide. You have to bring the mouse over onto the black screen and you will see a button for playing a video. Yeah, further down. Little down. Yeah, just click. Come to the bottom of the box rectangle, to the left-hand side corner. Video is not playing, but do go and have a look at this video. This is called Happy Tables. So basically, below the table, they put an RFID device. Now, when you put your mobile on the table, because of the RFID, an app opens in the mobile. And now the child can play the mobile, like a game. He can take it around the table, and suddenly the experience is recreated. And as he plays the game, he can play a competitive game with somebody else on some other table. So all of a sudden, a brand experience was replicated by the power of digital. The second video, which again I'll not be able to show you, is a video by a company called Tesco. Tesco is like a big retailer, like a Star Bazaar, and this happened in Korea. The insight Tesco had was that Koreans are very hardworking people. They don't get time to go to a supermarket. And the second insight was that when people are standing at a railway station or at a metro, they have time to kill. Tesco married both these insights together. Because the consumer could not go to the supermarket, they bought the supermarket to the consumer. So what they did at metro stations, they actually plastered the entire wall with posters, with images of products, as you would see in a grocery store. So if you're standing at a station, you would get a feel you're actually standing in a grocery store. You can see all the products placed there. You can see a barcode. While you are waiting for the train to come, you can use your phone, you can use the Tesco app, and you can actually click against the barcode and keep filling in quantity. And a shopping is done. And you place the order. and the goods reach your house. So again, this was an example where a brand actually recreated a consumer experience by the power of digital. So don't think of digital purely as a Facebook, Twitter kind of a medium. Think what is the consumer problem and how can I use digital to actually solve that consumer problem. The second thought, we need to invest in building communities. You know, websites of today, if you look at websites of today, we have three kinds of websites. One is the content website, like a timesofindia.com. Other is a community website, like a facebook.com. And third is an e-commerce website, like a flipkart.com. But websites of future are going to be something that will marry content, community, and e-commerce together. That is really how consumers want to see things. So whatever business you are in, whatever be your brand, you have to start thinking that on my web presence, how can I build a community? On my web presence, how can I allow somebody to close a transaction? This is a screenshot of a website called houzz.com, houzz.com. And I will encourage you to see the website. And if you see the website, there have tons of content here. So if you see, this is all user-generated content. You know, users have, this platform basically sells home furniture, you know. So they have encouraged users to come and share their own designs, you know, how they place furniture in the house. And they have about 3 million such photographs. Then they have created content, both with the help of users and guest author. About 10,000 articles are there, how to buy furniture for your house. Then there are professional services. You know, you require a carpenter or somebody to polish or put things together. A complete listing is here. And here is where actually e-commerce is happening. Okay, so discussion, professional services. So look from a buyer's perspective, he gets everything at one place. He gets guidance what to buy from other consumers. He requires an ancillary service, he's able to get it there. He's able to look at reviews, he gets guidance from experts, and there's a place to buy. And probably the best example of a houzz.com site actually is TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor has community, it has commerce, it has content. All the three actually working together. So for each of our brand presences, we need to start thinking in terms of how do we get community, commerce, and content to happen together. The third recommendation is hyper-personalization. Digital allows you hyper-personalization, one communication to one person at a time. We need to learn to leverage the power of hyper-personalization. What is the challenge that digital poses? This used to be the consumer journey once upon a time. Consumers saw a TV ad or he went to a shop and there was a point of sale person. This was the typical consumer journey. What is the consumer journey today? The brand has to talk to the consumer through so many touch points. There is WhatsApp, Facebook, Google, point of sale, SMS, phone call, IVR. There are so many points of presence. So what is the challenge it creates for the brand? The brand is not able to identify exactly the same consumer across multiple channels. If I'm a telco, for example, and I'm having an offering for a post-paid low RPU consumer, why should I sell him something which is meant for prepaid consumer on say, a Facebook page, right? So how do I identify it is the same consumer, whatever be his touch point? And how do I ensure my messaging is consistent? Is really the challenge all of us are facing. And this is where the concept of using marketing automation solution, which leverage on hyper-personalization, help us to understand the same consumer from wherever he comes to us. So if the guy comes to us on Facebook, we'll know he's the same guy. If he calls on us the IVR, we'll recognize his mobile number. If he comes for an off-ground event, we'll know who's the guy, and you can ensure exactly the same consistent communication for that person. What is the opportunity here? I'll give you an example of a credit card company, one of the largest credit card companies in India, and I've been using their card for 10 years now. Every month I get an email saying, do you want EMI? For the last 10 years, I have not taken EMI. For the next 10 years, I will not take EMI. They still waste a mail on me every month asking me, do you want EMI? They have so much data about me, what I eat, where I wear, where do I shop, where do I travel. They could be leveraging the data to send me absolutely hyper-personalized communication. Instead, I get one mail saying, do you want EMI? I'm a part of a loyalty program of another retail chain. I think a month back, I got a mail saying, we have launched a new range of saris. Do you want to come and have a look? Now, can't you figure out with my gender that saris are not likely to interest me? And if you know that I have a pattern of buying blue suits, why don't you send me a mail which actually has blue suits? Imagine I'm a retailer. I have so much rich data about my customer. When I send a Raksha Bandhan mail, and I know this guy buys blue suits, I should send him a blue suit image. If I know this guy buys red shirts, I should show him a mail with red shirts. This is the power of hyper-personalization. Market automation solutions allow you to do it at scale. You create one email, you set a set of rules, it will go back and look at the data, it will pick up the right SKU, patch in the mail, 10 million mails go out at the click of a button. But every guy getting the communication actually feels this message was meant for me. And it suddenly gives you so much better ROI on your method of communication. I'll take you through a solution or a case study. The solution really is using marketing automation solutions, like an exact target kind of a solution, which allows you to map the consumer journey across various media and communicate to the customer over email, over SMS, over apps, over social networks, every which way you can. And this gives you huge ROI, in terms of being able to engage with the consumer. Here is a case study scenario which I kind of envisage. So let's look at a case study of a brand which is called as an Alpha brand. It's a retailer of apparel, for example. And it has both digital as well as offline, online kind of a presence. Believes in lifelong customer relationship rather than transactional ones. This is the protagonist of our story, Saurabh Jain, 37 years, like one of you, CIO of an Indian major company, family man, busy professional. Okay, that's the setting for our story. One day Saurabh is on the internet, he's looking at Twitter. A friend of his has put up a tweet. Tweet says, the friend has put up a tweet which says he has bought a suit. And Saurabh comments on that, okay, saying, smart suit, I need one for my wardrobe also. So Saurabh's friend has put up a tweet where he's showing a picture of a suit, and Saurabh has commented in the public domain, saying, smart suit, I need one of these also. What does the Alpha brand do? Using a social listening tool, like a Radian6 tool, it picks up the tweet. As soon as it picks up a tweet, it sends a response to Saurabh. And what is the response? Check out our new range of suits. The brand has identified that Saurabh has a suit requirement. He has put out in so many words. The brand has sent a tweet back with a link. Okay, the link is for visiting the website. Saurabh visits the website. He logs into the website using his social credentials. Because he logs into his social credentials, the site shows him collection meant for men. Okay, because he has logged in using his Facebook or Twitter account, you know the gender of the person. You know the link because it came from a suit link. So you can directly take him to a suit page instead of taking him to a home page and forcing him to find his way through exactly to the page you have taken him through. Saurabh spends some time on the website. He logs in, has a look at a few suits, and he leaves. He doesn't buy. What does this brand do? One day later, they send him an email saying, dear Saurabh, you had come to our site. Here are some interesting suit options. And these options are being shown to him based on his browsing preference. Right? At the back end, you know which pages he browsed. So if you know that he browsed pages of brown suits, you can send him an emailer showcasing a new range of brown suits. So you're exactly trying to meet out his requirement or a problem. And the mail has multiple call to action. So you can go back to the website, you can place an order, you can visit a store, various things. Saurabh decides to book an appointment. So he clicks on the book an appointment link and he books an appointment at one of their physical stores. So he selects the nearest store and he enters his data, saying this is the store I'm planning to visit and so date I intend to visit the store. As soon as he puts the information, sales executive at the store gets an alert saying that somebody has booked an appointment to come to your store, visiting your store on February 11th at 5 p.m. and also information on what are the kind of products this person is interested in.